I, Phil McNeely, President of the Duncanville Independent District School Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of Board of Trustees is present and that the meeting has been duly called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening. Our mission at Duncanville is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. We will now turn it over to Dr. Moses and David Thompson for information on how things went today.
You want to lead off? Make
Oh,
a
I
few
just,
comments?
thank you, Mr. President, and members of the board. It's good to see all of you tonight, and thank you for giving us a little bit of time. David and I were here bright and early this morning, and we have had a very, very good day. Thank you for the people that you nominated to participate in the focus groups today. We enjoyed very much meeting them. They were very, very nice people, and they all got to contribute, and we appreciated it. We really enjoyed especially the students, but the teachers, parents, people from your faith-based communities, the people you nominated. Jody did an excellent job, and we appreciate her. She had everything set up. Everything was ready to go. She got a shout out for herself from a couple of the people that were there, and we said, what are some strengths that she got a couple of shout outs as being a strength in the district, but it was a it was a good day, and David and I were available if anybody from the media wanted to talk to us. No one cared, didn't think they wanted to ask about the search. There weren't any, so we went down to Papa's and had a barbecue sandwich, and came back and did more this afternoon. If you got any feedback, I hope it was favorable. But we tried to make sure everybody had a chance to talk. Usually, I think everybody got to talk at least 4 times. Anyway, a lot of good feedback. David is going to start summarizing some of this today. I have about 18 pages of notes. The president wanted me to read it all to you, but I told him I just wasn't going to do that. But we try to get as close as we can to taking verbatim what we hear them say, not for attribution, but just to get a feel for what people are thinking. I don't think a lot of this is going to surprise you because you appointed them, but they may have you may catch 1 or 2 things, but it was a good day, and David will start some summaries for you. We're going to give you this information, try to turn it around tomorrow morning and have my assistant type up the notes, and then try to have them in Jody's hands tomorrow afternoon so you can get emailed the kind. It'll just be a summary of what we heard, but you'll have those at least to look at. And then these questions that we posed today are going up on the district's website tomorrow, and they'll be up for about 5 days. So if there's members of the public, we told everybody today, David told them in every session, if you talk to somebody that says, hey, I would have liked to have done that, well, those questions are on the district website. Just go right up there and answer those questions, and you can give the same feedback we got to give today. So anyway, that'll be up there, and then we'll have that information for you, and then before we leave, we'll talk a little bit about your next meeting. I'll let David kind of start summarizing what he heard, and I might add a little.
Please do.
When you met with each group, did you go like down the line asking people things? Or was it a jump in type thing?
No, we control it.
Okay.
And like for one group, for one question, we'll start on this side, go around this way, then we'll start on this side, then we'll start in the middle and do this. So the same person isn't at the end of the line every time.
Thank you.
And so we do try to regulate it so that everybody gets a chance to participate, but they also get to hear what each other thinks. So
Thank you. I knew you had to have a system.
I have a question. You had to submit 9 names, right? how many participants from what we submitted, how many did you all have?
Well, I'll give Joe, we had 20 in the first group, 18, and then about 17, so what do we have, about 55? Of the people you nominated, you had a pretty
Yeah.
strong, you had pretty strong participation. As we told you, if they know ahead of time and you get the letters out far enough ahead, the districts that don't do that, if they send it out 3 or 4 days ahead of time, we don't get much, but Jody did a good job, she did what we suggested y'all do, get them out, and we give the boilerplate letter, get them out 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time. Then people put it on their calendar and they try to come, but you didn't have 100%, but I'd say you had 85% participation today.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you had 85 to 90% participation. Every group was very strong and a good diverse group, each of them.
Good,
So,
good, good, good.
and as Dr. Moses said, if you heard any comments back from any of them, anything you need to share with us, let us know. We're always looking for feedback. We enjoy doing this. We enjoy meeting with constituents in communities, have an opportunity to visit with your constituents about their hopes, aspirations, expectations for their schools. And I think you will find the information very informative and very valuable when you get it all in writing.
I will share that I received positive feedback from my nominated people.
Well, good, thank
So
you.
They texted and said it was a very good experience, very positive, and so they were glad that they were able to share, and so that's what I want to share with the rest of y'all.
Well, thank you for that. So what I'm going to do right now, just this evening, Mr. President, is just give you a little flavor of what we heard, a couple of the themes. Again, you're going to get probably by tomorrow every single comment in writing, but we just want to kind of give you a little readout since we're here in the district, a feel for what we heard. And obviously with nearly 60 people over the course of the day, you're going to get a wide variety of comments. There are some comments when you get to review them that I would call one-off. They were repeated one time, not necessarily picked up on by others. That doesn't mean it's not an important comment, but it's one person's comment. But what we are trying to identify for you are particularly themes that just kind of naturally emerge. What are the points, the issues that recurred over and over between different constituents and in all the groups over the course of the day? I'll give you a little flavor of that, and then Mike, you can add a few if you want to do so. The first question we ask, and it's kind of an icebreaker, but it's to get things started on a very positive note. We explain the process to the groups, and then we say, we're not just kind of casually sitting back waiting to see who applies. We are actively recruiting. We're contacting strong educators, trying to make sure the board has a good, strong pool to consider. And we ask the members of the group to identify what are your strengths? What are you proud of in the district or the community that you would want anybody considering this position to know about? And we tell them, think about our elevator speech. You ought to look at the Duncanville ISD superintendency because blank. So what's a strength? What's something you're proud of? And I'll just mention a couple that were, again, kind of thematic that we heard over and over during the course of the day. One we heard is that there is a very strong foundation already in place. And people were careful to say that's in all areas. It's athletics, it's academics, and it's arts. And people talked about the sports programs, but they were just as proud to talk about the band and choir and some of those programs, as well as your academic programs. So that strong foundation, I think we heard that over and over during the course of the day. Numerous people talked about how the community supports the schools and how the schools really are the center of the community, how the community comes together to support the schools, how people turn out for student activities and events, and that was noted. The number of programs that you have and the variety of programs, that you have some very good college bound programs, but you also have some outstanding CTE programs to prepare kids who are not going immediately into college, but so that kids are ready for that workforce. The diversity of the district was mentioned as a strength on numerous occasions. Your legacy, your culture, the pride, and the values that are here were all mentioned. Small town feel in a very metropolitan area was mentioned as a big plus. And then you have great students. Several people commented and said, we have just wonderful kids here. And so Mike, I'll stop there, see if there were any strengths that you saw or heard over and over during the course of the day.
Just kind of repeat what David said. You got your CTE programs, the special ed program, and the collegiate program all got shout out several times. As also, there were a couple of shout outs for the early childhood program. And I don't know if that's relatively new or, but there was some real, there were good feelings had emulated about that. And people said there's more work to do, but thought that's something that was really welcome. Climate and culture, as David said, the climate and culture were celebrated. We got a great foundation. We've got some things that that we're really pleased about as far as our climate and culture. They were proud of the academic programs, but if you would expect, they were equally proud of their athletic programs and music programs, fine arts, band also. And I even commented, I remember when I first came to Duncanville, I think the band had 300 or 400 kids in it and had almost more kids than we had in all of our athletic programs. But that's kind of been a hallmark here in terms of the strength. But those were probably, I think we've kind of hit the ones we heard over and over and over. There were more. There were a lot of one-offs. Character training was mentioned. Community cooperation. Probably community cooperation with the city. Okay, yeah, that came up with the city and with other governmental agencies as a plus several times too. But there were many strengths. We just tried to distill those into probably 7, 8, 9 that we heard repeatedly.
So you can guess what the next question is. After asking what the strengths are, then we said, okay, now we're going to turn it around. And we were very careful to say that we never talk about schools having problems. We do talk about schools having challenges, just like each of us has in our own personal lives, in our families, in our businesses. There are things we can work on. Think of it that way. So that was, we kind of said, your new superintendent's going to come here, and it's sort of like marrying into a family. It may be new to you, but there's an ongoing story that you have to catch up with and learn about. So what are some of the challenges that are confronting the district in the next 3, 4, 5 years that your new superintendent needs to come in and know about and come prepared to help address? So that's kind of the next question, kind of the flip side of the first question. I'll mention a couple, Mike, and then if you want to flag some. Number 1, recruiting and retaining teachers and other staff. A lot of conversation about teachers, but there was also a recognition that it's kind of hard to find bus drivers. It's kind of hard to find custodians. It's kind of hard to find other support personnel. So salaries and benefits, attracting, retaining teachers and other staff, staying competitive, and and making this a desired place for people to work. And several people made the observation that sometimes retaining staff is not just about money. Money's certainly important, but it's also making people feel valued, empowered, and appreciated. And so, but that was kind of number one. Everybody was aware of it. And I think, again, that's not a Duncanville problem. That's a statewide and perhaps even a national concern. I would say that was number one among the issues that we heard repetitively. There were a number of concerns about finances, about how are we going to afford the things we need for our kids? How are we going to, and I mean, there were people who said, we realize we're technically deficit budgeting. We are using some fund balance to maintain programs, but I think there was a recognition we can't do that forever. So that issue of how do we pay for the great things that we already have and that we know we need to meet the needs of students? That was a recognition as a challenge. Number three, safety and security. Several people said that they think your schools are reasonably safe, but there's just a general concern, and Mike and I hear this all over Texas about, are we doing all we can do to keep schools safe and secure? There was a recognition that you're trying to hire officers, and you don't have all the officers that you have positions for at this time, and so people commented about that, and then closely related to safety and security were some concerns about student behaviors and discipline, and kind of a sense that that conduct has gotten worse maybe in the last few years, maybe a post-COVID, but there seems to be a noticeable change in behaviors. And that was noted by the adults, and it was noted by the students. And so how do we set standards? How do we enforce clear expectations, and how do we really instill the kind of behaviors and discipline that students need to learn and that make for safe learning environments? Your demographics are changing a little bit. Several people commented on that. And then, Mike, the last one I'll mention was how do we get parents more engaged? We have a certain number of our parents engaged and involved, but we have a whole lot of parents that aren't that engaged in school. How do we get more parents connected and engaged and actively working with the school to benefit their children? Mike, I'll mention those, and I'll see if you have any you want to add.
I'd underscore, I think what David said is that the teacher availability issue is gigantic, but we commented to your groups, this is not unique to Duncanville. 370,000 teachers in Texas, about 40,000 leave the profession every year for retirement or other reasons. Since COVID, we're running 50,000 or better, 55,000 leaving this year. So it's not a unique problem to Duncanville. It's a problem, and I don't have to tell you that our state did nothing to address it this last session. So it's going to continue to be a challenge. I'll just say this, that I thought your senior staff, and I'll give a little shout out here to the HR director, I thought offered some newer numbers, knew the data, knew the statistics, knew what the challenge was, and I was impressed with that. But the other thing that students who were here weren't whiners. They were not whiners. They were really smart young people. And one young lady said, I've had 4 teachers this year in an honors course. They can't keep and it's an honors biology course. And no whining, not whining, just matter of fact that it's just, that's how hard it is. for not only the students, but, you know, for the teachers and your principals and HR people. So I know you know this, but it's just to kind of underscore that. And the good news was the people from the business community and the people from the city and the people that heard that. And that's why I say getting people to get to hear that kind of information. It's not like it's just, you know, chit chat. That's real stuff that people are hearing. So I think the more of that we're transparent about and people know about, the more likely we are someday to get the kind of solution that we hope we'll get. I have to underscore the safety and the kids, again, not whining, teachers not whining, but just concerned about student behavior and getting parents to have to assume more responsibility for the conduct of their kids. That it's all the accountability, the testing and accountability is all on the school, and they feel like the conduct's all on the school. And that the parent, you know, and we all respect parents, and we all understand the need for parents to have their parent protections. But boy, there's just a real feeling that somewhere the equation's off somewhere a little bit. But that was discussed. A couple of people I thought showed some real sophistication, and they talked about the charter school competition, and they talked about attendance and that we get money for kids that are in attendance at a pretty big rate. David, is that fair to say? And we need to understand what's the competition and what we can do to address it in the terms of charter schools and getting kids in school. And I thought they showed, again, level of knowledge and understanding that we don't always see. I think those were probably the primary ones. The diversity, strength, diversity, a challenge. Our socioeconomic status of our kids is we were told is a challenge. No whining, but just an acknowledgement of what people see and what they feel. Few people I heard mentioned 2 or 3 times. We've got some apartments. We've got some growth here. We're a little concerned about how that's going to play out. On the flip side, you're not growing a whole lot. In fact, you're pretty flat. Enrollment's pretty flat. May fall a little. Your CFO was again on target. I thought it had a lot of information and understood the numbers very well. Anyway, but those were kind of some of the challenges. I doubt those are a surprise to you, but they did demonstrate that people have some knowledge about what the board faces and what a new superintendent's going to face.
All right, so those were kind of the first couple, and we kind of phrase that as, you know, we're taking inventory a little bit, and we make the observation. We've all heard the line that you need to hear 5 positives for every 1 negative, if you've ever heard that idea. And we observed that, you know, the challenges can feel overwhelming at times. You know, we can really almost sometimes feel like it's insurmountable, but we kind of close out this section by saying, remember, we started with the strengths, and it's our strengths that we're going to rely on to address our challenges. So the challenges are real, but don't forget that there's that large body of strengths that we started with. So kind of a little inventory of you know, what do we have to build on, and also what are we going to be facing in the next few years. Mike, do you want to do the next part where we move to the individual?
Go ahead, you got it.
All right.
You go ahead, and then I'll add on.
All right. Then we shift and we talk about what kind of person do you want the board to really focus on as you go through looking at resumes, applications, as we talk about all of the materials individuals submit, as you prepare and go through interviews. And we divide the question into 2 parts. The first question is, think about things that you're going to see on a resume or an application, the written things, degrees held, jobs held, um, uh, uh, any other activities that might show up on a resume, doctorate or not a doctorate, all of those things. And then we separate that from what we call the soft skills or the personal attributes, the qualities that you frequently only are going to be able to identify when you actually talk to people. But we start with those professional ones because that's what y'all are going to see when you look at resumes. That'll be your initial thing, and I'll give you a sense of some. We heard unequivocally, we want an educator. We didn't hear anybody say this, we're open to people from outside of education. Strong teaching background, somebody who really understands what it's like in the classroom. Good administrative experience. A number of people said, I want somebody that's been a principal, somebody that's led a campus. And I'd make the observation in our accountability system, we rate campuses, and then the district rating is an accumulation to some extent of campus ratings. So that campus leadership experience was important. Experience with diversity, experience with the community, successful experience, I always want to say, with the community with kind of similar demographics and some of the diversity of Duncanville was important. Two questions that we got we got answers on both sides. We had a number of people say we really ought to focus on somebody who already is a superintendent. But we also had a number of people say, if it's the right person, if they've not been a superintendent, they're a deputy maybe in a larger district, if they're the right person, we're open to that. So we got a little bit on both sides of that. And we did hear some people say, I don't care if the person has a doctorate or not, but we got some pushback the other way. We had some other people say, nope, that doctorate is important. Even if it doesn't make you smarter, it is a great indicator of persistence and a person's own commitment to education. And then we heard pretty clearly they want somebody who, if not a Texan by birth, is very familiar with the Texas education system, our accountability system, our funding system, really the culture of our schools is pretty unique. And they very definitely, I think we heard a preference in support of that. Mike, any you want to mention on those professional characteristics and background?
Again, similar to, someone is familiar with Texas culture of the Texas legislature, someone that can be a spokesperson for the district if needed in Austin, someone that understands Texas Education Agency, as David said, the legislature, the agency. So those were all desired professional characteristics. I think you hit the others pretty good.
Why don't you do personally?
Personal, we then turn around and say, tell us about the soft skills. Tell us what you think that in a word or two describes what the next superintendent in Duncanville must have in their toolkit. What do they need to be as a role model and exemplify? And you won't be surprised, words that and we let them start describing in a word or two. Honest, fair, approachable many times, visible many times, accessible many times, communicator, which also a couple of people turned around and said listener, as well as a communicator, well-spoken, well-organized, someone that can inspire our students and teachers, was also in their integrity several times. See if I can read my notes now. We were writing pretty fast, by the way. There were some people that wanted to say, I want to know what they do outside of education. I want to know what they do to stay well-rounded. And they said they hoped the board would get to know the candidate, and we explained about how the board gets to know the candidates. And we walked them through that a little bit about what all you would do to get to know candidates better. But they were interested in not just what you did while you were at work, but what did you do when you weren't working, and what did you like to engage in. I think I've hit the visible, approachable. More than a few people said it would really be nice if we had someone who was bilingual. They were
We heard that a number of
times.
bilingual.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody said you got to require it, but there were a lot of people said it would really be nice if someone had that skill. And high moral character. The word that got me, it got mentioned 2 or 3 times, and I don't know, I hadn't heard it a lot lately, but the word grit got mentioned several times. Just need to have some grit to just stay the course, stay in there sometime, even when it's tough. So that's kind of, I think, gives you an idea of the personal attributes people were thinking about. Again, I doubt I think it'd be hard to disagree with many of them, and they would probably, I think, be pretty reflective of what's needed in a leadership position like that. So that's kind of a summary of what we heard today, and you're going to get that hopefully by tomorrow afternoon. We can turn that around and get that to Jody, and then she can email that to you. And it'll see a list, but you'll kind of see some of the things we heard repeatedly and our ears sometimes were faster than our hands. We were hearing things, and we were trying to write things just to get what we were, but in any event, you want me to say a word about the search?
Yeah, why don't you?
Mr. President, let's do this. We'll say a word about search. Why don't we stop there for a minute and see if y'all have any questions want to ask us anything about what we heard today, or anything specific that
Or anything you've heard about.
you heard, or
Yeah.
you want to tell us, or you want to ask us that we didn't mention you thought we might mention.
Okay, I'd like to share something that I heard today.
Okay.
It was from a senior community member. Mhm. I'm not gonna say, I didn't say that. Okay, so, somebody stated that they didn't need people to give input from the old days because this is a totally different age now. And that was like, it made them feel a little like, why am I here then? Because this person was an educator and they bring a lot to the table, but because of their age, they felt like they shouldn't have even been there.
Well, I don't know how to. The only response I would have is without identifying who we're talking about. There was an individual that said, "I'm not sure why I'm here," and in a moment of trying to make them, I made the statement that 70% of the people in Texas do not have school-aged children. 70% of the people in Dallas County do not have school-aged children. 7 do not have school-aged children.
They may be grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, but they don't have that direct parental.
And I did say the reason we asked the board to appoint non-parent taxpayers is because they represent such a large percentage of people, and I wanted to assure that individual that their opinion did make a difference. And I don't know if we're talking about the same person, Trustee Phillips, but I did hear a person say, "I'm not sure why I'm here because I'm not sure," and I wanted that person to know, no, your opinion matters because you are 70% of the Texas population, adult population.
Yeah, and I'm remembering a comment, this may or may not be it, where one of the other participants did say, with Gen Z and with younger generations, learning styles have changed. People are much more into technology, and the person did say, we want somebody who is current with educational approaches, learning styles of students, and isn't stuck somewhere in the past of how things used to be. And you know, you'll see these comments. Mike and I don't, I mean, we don't editorialize. We just let them say what they think's important. And frankly, in the group, it's okay. It's perfectly fine if people have some differences of opinion. And, but I will say everybody within the group, you know, all of the groups, I thought, expressed their thoughts respectfully and listened to
Yeah.
each other respectfully.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nobody was discourteous to anybody. They were all, everybody was, I think there were some aha moments again when they start listening to each other. That you have to.
Well,
Did anyone mention an age group, like, do we want somebody that's, gonna be, 3 or 4 years down the road retiring, or someone, nothing like that was mentioned?
No, we told the board, we told the groups that you will probably have applicants of people at all stages of their career, and the board may very well want to talk to people at different stages of your career. But I don't recall anybody saying, I want an X, I want somebody, 30 or under, or I want somebody that's close to the end. I don't remember. But we did talk about the fact that we will have applications, and y'all are gonna get to see some people at different stages of their career.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So guess what? I do care
Yeah. Yeah.
who their superintendent is in the district that
Sure.
they live in.
You bet.
I have
So
5
my ears are
grandchildren.
up.
I care. Yeah, I
And,
care.
so it does matter.
Yeah. No, I got you. Carla, we did see, some people would say, well, we think we ought, whether we have an experienced superintendent doesn't matter. We're willing to give, and so I just gently asked, so you think this Duncanville's a place for a beginner? And they'd say, I don't know about that. Let me think about that for a minute. And people did say, we're willing, we think if the board entertains some top deputies or assistants, if they have real good track records, but, then people would kind of step back and think, where'd Mark come from? We came from Marshall. He had to be experienced superintendent. Did that seem to help? That, he'd passed a bond issue in Marshall, which is dadgum near impossible. But they did some thinking and reflecting as they talked about, where should this land? I think the board, you'd say, well, the board was going to be supported, I think, regardless. But it's if it's not a sitting superintendent, they said it needs to be somebody pretty special, So we talked to everybody about the calendar. We told them that we had met with y'all on the 22nd of January. We had started advertising on the 23rd. We told them we mailed out letters to 50 people of invitations. The 30th, we also told them we mailed out letters for people to nominate to people that were service center directors, superintendents, other trustees, people that we know in the profession. We talked about today and what all was happening today. We talked to them about the deadline being March 1st. We talked to them about that we would be with y'all on March 6th, and it would be a long meeting, and you would spend a lot of time on the subject that evening of looking at files. We told them we would show you everyone that submitted an application, resume, letter of interest, and so forth. That you would probably work to narrow that down to 5, 6, or 7 people. Let's say 6. We told them that we would encourage all of you to not interview 6 people that all look alike, that we would recruit men, women, people of all ethnicities. We would encourage you to interview people who were very experienced, people who were in the power stroke of their career, and people who were rising stars, so that you saw a very diverse group of people, a very diverse group of candidates to look at, because we wanted them to know the board was going to be thoughtful about who all was going to be looked at and who would be talked to. We also told them that we would work with you to prepare for the interviews, that we wouldn't just throw them out there and say good luck, that we would help you come up with a battery of questions that we'll furnish you. You can use them if you want to. You can throw them away if you want to. But I think you'll find them helpful to do the first round of interviews with the candidates. And then we told them about the second round, how we will encourage you to bring 2 people back with spouse, spend some time with the candidate and the spouse, then excuse the spouse and spend another couple of 2 or 3 hours with the candidate. We told them that at the end of the search, you as trustees will have invested over 20 hours in this process. So it's a commitment on your behalf. And people appreciated that. There was some acknowledgement of nodding and acknowledgments that, yeah, that's thorough. They're going to be spending some time on that. We also told them that after you had identified the candidate, that we would then do a criminal background check, financial background check. We would do the social media background check, and we would talk to people who were not on their reference list. David and I know enough people that we don't just rely on the names they give, and their references will be important. If it's a school board member or a city council person or a teacher or a principal, we want to talk to those people, but we're going to talk to people that are in the profession, that we know that we can find out if everything is as advertised. And once the board has done all that, and David and I have done that, and you feel good, and David and I feel like you're in a very, very strong position, then you can identify a lone finalist as early as April the 8th. And then that's on our time schedule. And by April 29th, you could sign a contract and somebody could begin in early June. By the way, I understand that you do not have contested school board races this year. Congratulations on that. Let me just say it. That will make your candidates feel much better.
Yep.
Because they would have said, if they were, well, tell me about the school board elections and tell me about what's going on. Am I going to be working for a different group? They will be much more comfortable knowing if you make a selection that they're going to get to work with all of you who select the next superintendent. One quick thing, I have March 6th at 5:15. Is that what we're shooting for? And I have that y'all are going to start your first round of interviews on March 20th. And there'll be interviews on March 20, 21st, and 22nd. Is that what you have? Yeah, well, I think that's isn't that the right dates? And those are going to be at 5:30 and 8 o'clock. I have, and then the second round is the following week, and you have 2 evenings identified for that, which are March 26th and March 27th. So, and those will be dinners at 5:30, and then probably excuse the spouses about 6:30, 6:45, and then keep the candidate for another couple of hours or however long you want to. That's kind of, Mr. President, that's kind of our report this evening. I will say this, and your candidates, we are getting candidates. We're talking to people almost every day. Without going into a great deal, I think it'd be premature to talk about the pool too much, but I think you have about 20 applicants thus far, and you have 11 sitting superintendents. So you will have a good group to talk to or to look at and to consider who you want to talk to. There will be more applicants that will establish a candidacy, but they tend to do it, as we told you early on, in the last 2 to 3 days of the process. And it's just part of it is a reflection of the open records law. Even though it's a confidential search, they don't like exposure any longer than necessary. And the other part of it is, David always reminds me, people watch the deadline, and when they see a deadline, then they get busy and they get their stuff in, but they don't worry about it until it's a few days before the deadline. I thought I was the only one that was that way, but evidently there are other people that way. What have I forgotten to mention?
I think that covers it. Unless y'all have some questions or thoughts for us, I think that gives you a
You got
flavor.
any questions?
I just want to make a comment. Thank y'all so much for being so thorough in explaining everything, not to us, but to the focus groups, because when they understand and they have the information, then they'll understand why we selected who we selected.
Well,
So, thank you.
Thank you. But we do that we want them to know. We also view it as our job to reflect favorably upon all of you. You selected us. We want to reflect favorably on you and the work that we do for you. So if they have that information, they know what you're doing, they know what we're doing, and they know how we're trying to do it. And if they know that, then hopefully at the end of the day, when you make a decision, there will be a lot of support for that decision because they know what went into it.
Should send our people a thank you note for participating. This might be a good group for the new superintendent to,
Don't tell her what you told them.
what?
They could tell.
I think that's a great suggestion to follow up and thank them. We do always suggest, it's not our decision to be made, we'll be gone by then, but we do tell new superintendents that it would probably be a nice thing to do within the first month or 2 months after they've kind of begin to settle in, is to reconvene groups like this. If not the exact same people, at least similar groups, and go through, have an hour conversation, kind of do some of what we did and use that as a way to begin connecting and building some of their own relationships in the district. So we did tell all the groups that if they're asked to give a little bit of time at some point in the future, we hope they'll be able to do that. But I think thanking them for giving their time today would be very appropriate.
Janice, did you mean, individually, thank the people that
My
were
9 people.
nominated?
Yeah,
or the
my
whole-
9 people, her 9, whatever.
Okay, I didn't know what
Let's-
was,
let's-
and or
let's
all
make-
of us, or make Jody do it, or, I was thinking of 3 different things, us, all, or her.
Let's make sure we send them to people that were here.
Yeah.
So that you send them something, they say, oh, they're just.
But we have records of everyone who was here.
I think we've
Yeah.
got a record here.
If you could share those with Jody,
Yeah,
that would
of
be
every-
great.
Yeah, we've got everybody who
The
was
ones that have
present.
a check by their name, and the ones that I think, you know, they've got a live check. I had to write some of the things. Anyway, but I think,
And Jody, do you have enough cards so some blank?
I believe I do. I think I ordered some more not very long ago.
Anything else? I appreciate your work today because I really think this is a very important step. Kind of gives us a roadmap of where we need to be going. And we're in it now. So, seeing there's nothing else, this meeting's adjourned.
thank y'all.
All right. Jody, you're in charge of mine. You're in charge of